What really obvious thing have you only just realized? That when I was a kid and my dad would take me to the video store on Friday nights and he would go into the back room where only adults were allowed, he was looking at adult entertainment. That the phrase mint condition means like new because it's the condition coins leave the mint in. Wow, I always thought it meant mint condition because mint makes you feel fresh. I must have been around 11 to 12 years old when I realized that an order of appearance during the end credits of a movie doesn't list the actors/actresses by who is the most good-looking. That's how I personally rate actors and actresses when I list them. Tom Hiddleston always has first billing, and he always will. I learned a couple years ago that it's not the mayor of bad news, it's actually the bearer of bad news. I'm 25. Cilantro and coriander are the same plant. One time I was at a restaurant with a friend sharing salsa and chips. I commented that the salsa had a very strong cilantro flavor and she commented she couldn't taste anything other than coriander. We debated the issue for a few minutes in disbelief that the other person was tasting something completely different and couldn't pick up on the taste the other thought was prominent. When I saw coriander seeds at the store a few weeks later, I bought them to see what taste she had been talking about. And then the truth clicked. I mean, at least you guys weren't arguing about how the salsa does or doesn't taste like soap. Definitely could have been worse. I only just today realized that the walk the plank on a boat is not a special edition pirates added to their ship as a means of public execution that looked like a little wooden diving board. It is, in fact, the very same plank as the gangplank you'd normally use to get on and off the ship. It is not the presence of the plank that is threatening, but the absence of dock. Until recently, I also thought that despite the obvious name, being keel-hauled meant you were just thrown off the boat and left behind. I didn't realize they tied you to a line, threw you off, and dragged you under the ship's keel. Shout out to Ailstorm's Keel-Hauled for my late education. For extra gruesome information on that front, the bottom of a ship is almost always covered in barnacles and other small shellfish with extremely sharp shells. So keel-hauling someone would usually cut them to ribbons on the bottom of the ship. That you have to add a can of water to Campbell's soup. Apparently I've been drinking straight condensed soup. Don't let people lie to you. Eat it straight from the can. The first time I visited the USA, I was on my own and in New York and going to all the museums. I kept seeing signs that said no strollers and thought, because we call strollers prams in the UK, that you guys are super strict about the proper amount of attention required to visit a museum. I actually pretended to show more interest than I had in order not to be thought of as some deadbeat out for a casual stroll. It wasn't until about day 3 that I saw a no stroller sign that included a graphic for idiots. Oh, my first visit to the States, I went to a supermarket on my own, and at the checkout, the lady asked me paper or plastic, and I didn't know what she meant, so I said, I have cash. And she very politely didn't tell me I was an idiot. She was in fact asking what type of carrier bag I wanted my shopping put in instead of how I was going to pay. That actually is a pretty reasonable misunderstanding. I'm a Brit who got sucked into a holiday job doing door-to-door sales for a MLM company in the US. All the doors with signs saying no solicitors confused me. As I was neither an attorney or a rent boy, I figured I was in the clear. Fortunately, the local police took an afternoon out of my day to explain. Since you just brought it up, I went years after seeing the movie Trainspotting thinking Rent Boy was just a cute folksy Scottish nickname for a guy whose name is Renton. Wasn't until I read the book and he mentions being offended by the sobriquet that I bothered to look it up. Not a term one will hear in America, that's for sure. It's pretty amazing that we technically speak the same language, but there are enough differences to confuse people that we could make an entire video on just people mixing up stuff when traveling between the US and the UK. That calling someone simple is just a nice way of calling someone stupid. Wife informed me of this after 28 years of my grandma calling me simple. Simple could also mean uncomplicated or not conniving, but maybe I'm just naive. Not naive, just simple. I realized at the age of 26 that narwhals are real because they were on an Octonauts episode. I walked into the room and was like, I thought they only do real animals on this show. Then the kid's dad said, "You're joking, right?" I kept seeing the same Chinese characters on restaurant signs and always wanted to know what it meant. A week ago, I found out. They mean restaurant. I used to always pour water into our coffee maker one glass at a time. It was such a pain in the butt, especially to refill the reservoir to the number of cups I wanted. Until I realized I could just fill the carafe with water, which has the exact same measurements, and pour the water in that way. I'm thankful that my coffee maker has a detachable reservoir so I can just pop it off and fill it up. I don't know why, but I don't like using the carafe for refilling water. The carafe is for coffee. I recently realized I was allergic to carrots. I just thought they made everyone's mouth numb, just like almonds. I also learned recently that I have an almond allergy. Same here. Thought that raw hazelnuts don't taste good because they give this weird tingle in your mouth. Found out I had a nut allergy when it suddenly turned from tingle to anaphylaxis, and I ended up in hospital for eating nut chocolate. Same. I asked my husband why carrots made your tongue itchy. I'm 35. I always thought you can't have your cake and eat it too was a weird saying because why wouldn't I be able to eat my freaking slice of cake? It's my cake. Nobody was telling me that I can't have my cake. Turns out they mean you can't eat the cake while also still retaining it. Once it's eaten, it is gone, an idiom I did not understand until this year. I am 27. The Italian version of this is you can't have a full bottle and a drunk wife, or something along those lines. Loophole. Have your cake and eat it too. This sounds ridiculous, but I recently found out about the term knee-jerk reaction. My whole life I had been saying it how I heard it and just figured it was spelled something like knee-jerk reaction, like it was some psychology term. English is not my first language, so I was mind-blown when I realized how keys, kiss, he's, his, this, these, etc. differed in sound, pronunciation. I first noticed this when I told my boyfriend I want a keys, and he looked very confused, lol. Now I try my best to pronounce them properly. Imagine if you made that mistake when ordering peas. My whole life I thought pay-per-view was actually pay-per-view because I had only ever heard people say it and only recently saw it written out. I was once asked by someone what I was up to as I was busy reading a book, and I replied, just watching some pay-per-view, and waggled my eyebrows. They groaned and walked away, and frankly, I can't blame them. My boyfriend did not know that his electric toothbrush had a timer on it that goes off at 1 minute and 2 minutes. He actually returned it and got a new one thinking it was broken since the timer is just a brief sort of pause/reduction in the vibration. He would be like, what the F? I literally just charged this effing thing, thinking that the battery was already dying. One day, and I can't remember exactly what the conversation was, I brought up how I liked that my toothbrush let me know when I had brushed long enough. And it was like a light bulb went off in his head and suddenly he put it together that that was what his toothbrush was doing all along. The big ship's wheel I got to turn as a kid was not actually controlling the cruise ship. This jogged my memory of something. When I was around 13, I was on a flight with a bunch of other kids. I fell asleep during the flight but woke up during some turbulence. A couple kids near me saw me wake up, startled, and made a big show of saying, "Whoa, I can't believe the pilot did a barrel roll." A few other people I talked to about it confirmed it, and it took me embarrassingly far into adulthood to realize some people were just messing with me. I mean, a pilot on a commercial flight wouldn't do that, right? Not with passengers, but amazingly, it has been done with an airliner. At a demonstration for industry officials, Boeing test pilot Tex Johnston was demonstrating the Boeing 707. Basically, his job was to persuade them to invest in the aircraft. Well, he was meant to do a simple flyover, but he did a barrel roll. Apparently, when his boss asked him incredulously, "What did you think you were doing?" he responded, "Selling the airplane." Fair enough. I realized that to be in one's birthday suit, it means to be without clothes. I thought for the longest time it was a specific set of clothes you would wear on your birthday each year. I found out when I asked, what happens when you don't fit in your birthday suit anymore? LOL. Stretch marks happen. I was 28 before I realized the meaning to the "why is 6 afraid of 7" joke. I always just thought it was dumb. 7, 8, 9, like you're just counting. The electric bill wasn't paid until later in my life. I didn't realize time flies like an arrow, fruit flies like a banana wasn't absurdist humor until college. It's because 7 was a registered 6 offender. For the longest time, I always thought prima donna was pre-Madonna. Me too. My mother would call me that, and I thought she meant I was going to be a W. Well, are you? Up until this thread, I too thought it was pre-Madonna. Principal Belding from Saved by the Bell is named Belding. 2 Beldings in one building, and one of them's balding. Best line of the show, according to younger me. Well, I was waiting for one of these to finally get me, and it's this one. It was on this day that I learned that Belding's name was a pun all this time. Damn. The reason the cord hook on the vacuum spins is so you can take the whole cord off at once instead of unraveling it one loop at a time, like I have been my whole life. And if you wind it up as a figure 8 between the two hooks, when you turn the hook down and take off the whole cord, it won't get tangled up as you vacuum. That parents have children write letters to Santa so they can figure out what to buy them for Christmas. I can't believe how I never put that together after 32 years on this earth. I just thought it was a fun little tradition. In Sweden, we put those letters in the post box with mail headed to the North Pole. In Canada, you also send them in the mail to Santa Claus, North Pole, HOH, Canada Post volunteers stationed at Santa's workshop will mail you back a letter from Old St. Nick. Our postal codes are letter number, letter number, letter number. My bedroom door was broke and I finally got around to fixing it. Thought the knob was broke because it was pushed in toward the door, so I pulled it out and realized that was how you locked the door. As a small child, like maybe age 4, my family told me the powder room door at my grandparents' house didn't lock. I had a reputation for accidentally locking myself into places, so they didn't want me locking myself in there, I guess. I was 18 before I accidentally locked the door just like that, realized how it worked, and emerged from the bathroom mortified and amused that I had gone all those years thinking the door just didn't lock. No one even remembered lying to me about the lack of lock. It's called Men's Warehouse, not Men's Warehouse. It's been a couple years since I realized this, and I just think that's a clever name. What the F? I just looked it up and I still don't believe you. The villain in Halloween is not played by Michael Myers. It'd be a lot funnier if he was. Oof. Just deleted a few attempts at trying to imitate Austin Powers as a murderer, and frankly, that audio will be tucked away, never to be heard. Maybe I'll release an outtakes video someday if you're good, and we get this channel to 500,000 subs? This little piggy didn't go to the market to do any shopping. Wait, then why are the other pigs eating roast beef? I feel like there's at least one of these pigs with its own agenda. Man, pigs will eat anything. For a long time, I thought to bust a nut meant that you were going to kick a guy in the balls or beat him up. So anytime I was getting worked up or angry about some guy, I would say, I'm gonna bust his effing nut, not knowing the real meaning. Nobody ever said anything, but it was always followed by my friends laughing, so I assumed it was because I was being dramatic. Years go by and my coworker is telling me about some rude person he met, and I said, you should definitely bust that guy's nut, to which he paused and said, do you even know what that means? Suffice it to say, I was extremely embarrassed and horrified when he explained it to me. Similarly, I had a friend who didn't know what friends with benefits meant. She thought it meant like a friend from work who is literally beneficial to your work. This is my friend with benefits, Brad. He has health insurance and a pension fund. I had a boss that was under the impression that bust a nut meant to work extremely hard. Suffice to say, our team meeting ended awkwardly when Sean would tell all of us to go bust a nut after the meeting. English is fun. Busting your butt totally means to work hard. Meanwhile, breaking my balls means what OP thinks. Super embarrassing, but in college I would order Roman Cokes because I heard everyone else ordering the same. Turns out I misheard everyone and found out it was just rum and Coke. A Roman Coke does sound like a great drink, though. Mix equal parts rum and cola, pour over ice, and serve. When teenagers said we're going to TP a house, I always thought it was TP, and it never made sense to me since they just covered a house with toilet paper. I didn't realize that TP was the initials for toilet paper. I'm 27. Am I misremembering, or are a lot of these people 27? Is 27 like some magical year where you learn stuff? I know it's a year a lot of young celebrities have died, but oh crap, do you think they died because they learned something they shouldn't have? This girl I know has a dog named Diogi. 2 years into knowing her and being around Diogi, I was having a conversation with her sister-in-law, and I said, I love the name Diogi. How did she come up with that? Her sister-in-law responds, Diogi, and I said, yeah, it's a neat name. She started laughing and said, no, D-O-G, the way you spell dog. I'm still mind blown about this, LOL. We got a chocolate Labrador quite a few years ago. My dad has been known to name animals after what species they are. This time around, my mom wouldn't let him name the dog Dog, so he named her Kitty. He also named his horse No Name. This is why we don't let him name animals anymore. I knew someone whose dog was named S-P-O-T. S-P-O-T. Spot. That they put measurement stickers next to gas station doors so if a robber is running out of the store, you can get a better estimate of their height. I always thought they were just there for something fun to do on road trip stops. More than that, they're not actually accurate if you stand against them and measure that way. They're supposed to be placed so the camera will show the correct height of the person, compensating for the angle of the camera. Whoa, whole new dimension to it. Today I learned. Pufferfish suck in water, not air. Okay, yes, I saw one get pulled from the ocean and deflated and it spat out water. I was shocked to my very core. Everyone else was like, yeah? Not just now, but I think it applies. I'm currently in my mid-30s. I didn't realize until I was about 28 years old that my mom's name was Betty and her sister's name was Wilma. Betty and Wilma from the Flintstones. And yes, they were definitely named after the cartoon I Asked. Flash forward 2 years later, my Aunt Wilma informed me that they were fraternal twins. Again, another thing for 30 years I had not known. When I was little, we had an Australian shepherd named Sydney. I didn't understand why her name was Sydney until 18 years later. I named my American Eskimo Juno. You have an Eskimo? Saw a place labeled as Public House when I moved nearby recently. It was at that moment I realized, oh, that's why they call them pubs. It's short for public house. In Russian phrase, public house means a W house, not a pub. I wonder. And motel is motor hotel. Up until last year, I thought Nat Geo was a person. I then realized it was short for National Geographic. Nathaniel Geotopoulos actually was a founder of the channel, but it's only a coincidence. Not me, but my sister asked me about 2.5 months ago when we were watching John Wick 3 during the desert scene. She asked me if they were real, and I asked if what were real, and she said sandlands. And I busted out laughing so goddamn hard and said, "You mean deserts? Yes, they're real." Thinking about it right now got me laughing. I think we should start a petition to change the word to sandlands, though. It's pretty good. By tornadoes sound like trains, they don't mean tornadoes whistle a choo-choo sound. Yeah, but wouldn't it be great if they did? I feel like that would make them a little more fun, kind of like that Thomas the Tank Engine mod for Skyrim. Hear the doot and run for cover. I thought astigmatism was a stigmatism. So I thought you could have two stigmatisms. And I confused stigmatism with both stigma and stigmata. Today, my friend realized pipe cleaners were originally for cleaning pipes, after I suggested using one to clean a metal straw because it's similar to a pipe. Oh, I had that one about 7 years ago when my stoner butt was trying to clean out a glass pipe. Man, this is so stupid. Someone should invent some sort of effing pipe cleaner. Oh. The people who always seem to know what direction it is, north, south, east, west, aren't somehow magical magnets, but are rather just noticing where the goddamn sun is in the sky. Why did no one tell me? The sun is a huge indicator, but I know plenty of people who keep track of direction without the sun without even thinking about it. I am not one of them. Please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day. I regret to inform you all that it just occurred to me the other day that the game is called Sims because they're in a simulation. I'm 26. That getting your tires rotated means moving the tires to a different location on the car, not spinning the wheels. Once we finish up with the oil change, you want us to do a tire rotation? Why? What happened to them? They were doing that the entire drive over here. I learned that allspice is actually one spice and not a blend of spices containing cinnamon and nutmeg. Edit. Reworded. I do not think cinnamon and nutmeg are blends. I also just learned that from your comment. OP might be thinking of Chinese five-spice, which has cinnamon, but not nutmeg, I don't think. I want to say fennel, anise, peppercorn, and clove. I'm not sure on the pepper, actually, so maybe it is nutmeg? No time to check. Moving on. The houses in Bikini Bottom are car mufflers. What the F? And Patrick is dumb and knows nothing because he lives under a rock. Bikini Bottom is named after the nuclear bomb testing sites, and the sea life is weird from the radiation. Also, bikinis are named after the radioactive site as well. Bikini Atoll. Personal injury lawyers' commercials play more frequently during daytime TV because their clientele is injured, stuck at home, and watching daytime TV. In Pokemon, there is a same-type attack bonus where if you use a move that is the same type as the Pokemon itself, then the move does 1.5 times damage. People also refer to it as stab damage, what I thought was just a colloquial term for 1.5 times damage. I only just realized that stab stands for same-type attack bonus. My mom used to make my sisters and I belly buttons for dinner. I was 27 when I realized they were actually tortellini, but she knew we were dumb kids and would refuse something named so strange even though they were delicious. I think I would have been more freaked out about eating cooked belly buttons. Tortellini is definitively the best pasta, and I will not have its name sullied by people calling them belly buttons. How dare your mother? Cruella de Vil was a cruel devil. The word for explorer in Spanish is exploradora. Dora the Explorer, a Spanish play in words. Who's that super cool exploradora? When I was a kid, my mom told me my rabbit Rosie went to live on a farm. In my early 20s, I saw an episode of The Sopranos where everyone makes fun of Tony when he realizes his dog didn't really go to live on a farm. That's when I realized Rosie had not gone to a farm either. Oh man, I dated a girl once who started telling me about her old dog who went to live on a farm. I didn't even say anything, but the look on my face made her stop and think about it for the first time and go, oh no! We had a good laugh about that, but it was pretty wild to see the realization in real time. This reminds me of the time I was telling my ex about my pet turtle that ran away. Right after I said it out loud, it all made sense. If it makes you feel any better, I lived on a farm as a kid and took in 2 rabbits. One of my mom's friends was sick of her kids having rabbits, so I got them. They lived a good life. I used to bring them all of the butt ends of any vegetables my mom chopped up, and I gave them a lot of ice cubes in the summer. They didn't like to be petted, but they seemed to like it when I read to them. That has to be one of the cutest things I've ever read. Oh my god, I just realized the same thing with my bunnies. Was told we had to give them away for some reason and never thought anything of it. I knew they would have to be dead by now, just didn't realize they died back then. I was in high school but at home sick watching some terrible made-for-TV movie. The boy's dog had to be put down and the parents said he went to live on a farm, and I was like, wait, is that what happened to my parrot 10 years ago? They sent him to the local parrot farm to be a farm parrot, lol. There's an episode of Friends where they make fun of Ross for believing the family dog went to live on a farm. I watched the show with my wife a few years ago. Ross and I came to the same cruel realization at the same time. Oh my god, Chi-Chi! Today, the radio taught me Mariah Carey wrote and sang All I Want for Christmas Is You. All this time, I thought it was just a cover that she did so well people loved it more than the original. Turns out it is the original. Undergarments and socks are there to cover places that sweat and stink so you don't sweat and stink on the thing on top of the undergarment and can replace the undergarment more often. Except for men's undershirts, which exist so nobody has to see my man boobs when I wear a white dress shirt. Phineas and Ferb are shaped like a P and an F. Oh, that's why their heads are the P and F in the show's logo. The song It's Getting Hot in Here isn't actually talking about the temperature. I felt very, very stupid. Nellie was a groundbreaking climate activist. It's getting hot in here, so track your emissions. Big business pollutes all the air, we are so screwed. Alucard from Castlevania is Dracula backwards. In the movie Cats vs. Dogs, when the dog goes, "Son of my mom," he's actually saying "son of a bee." Remember that secret agent blue-gray kitten with the Russian accent? That breed of cat is called Russian Blue. That the Houston Astros name comes from astronauts. And the Baltimore Ravens are because Edgar Allan Poe lived and is buried in Baltimore. Don't forget died. With him, it might be a believable rumor otherwise. I'm 30, and I realized a few months ago that howdy is cowboy for how do you do. Buckaroo equals vecaro. Cahoots equals cohorts, vamoose equals vamonos or vamos, hooskow equals hootskado, critter equals creature, varmint equals vermin. This guy's Spanishes. Tenure is the word, not 10-year, which is what I thought teachers got at, like, job security once they worked for 10 years. I wanted to be a teacher when I was younger, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe you have to work at a school for 10 years before your job is secure. I realized when I was 16, reindeer were real. I 100% thought they were fake like elves and Santa Claus. This is so stupid, but I didn't realize my moms were gay until I was almost 14, and I literally heard my mom say, "I'm gay" to my grandma as a joke. I knew that lesbians, same as gay, were relatively interchangeable, but it didn't click as my moms are lesbians, which is another term for being gay, and they are gay until that moment. I also have a gay mom, but I didn't know the word lesbian till 6th grade. I got into a massive fight with my best friend because she called my mom a lesbian, and I didn't know what that was, so I thought it was an insult. Nope, turns out if your mom has a girlfriend, she's probably a lesbian. I'm 25 next week, and I still think about it. Maybe she had just learned the words herself and was trying it out. I was teaching intercourse ed class for kids that age, and one of the kids submitted an anonymous question, part of the class format. Every session had answers to the previous session's anonymous questions, asking me, "Are you a lesbian?" Yes, anonymous 12-year-old, I am a lesbian. The Grammys are called that because the awards are gramophones. Now everything has sense now. That Ecuador is named after the equator. Yep, literally just equator, but in Spanish. My friend, 22 years old, only realized last year that dolphins have to swim and live in the water to survive. He thought they're land mammals, but they just really like to swim for fun. I really want to look in that friend's head and see how he imagined dolphins moving around on land. No matter how I try to think of it, it's pretty amazing. That Michelangelo's David is David from David and Goliath. How did I not know this? I thought it was just a dude called David. On a similar note, I'm 37 and only realized a few years ago that the David and Goliath David is the same David as King David in the Bible. Obviously, not raised in church. Honestly, I forgot for a moment reading this. Oh, well, it could have been another biblical David like King David. Oh, wait. Okay, this was a couple of years ago, but it was something I realized way too late in my life. You're supposed to use the towel to dry yourself after a shower. I was just wrapping it around myself and sitting/walking around in it until I air dried. Last time I remember this question asked, there was a guy that didn't realize you could wait until the water got hot to get in the shower. He hated how it always starts so cold. I'm 16 and didn't realize until a month ago you don't have to turn sinks up all the way. Water always splashed me when I washed my hands, and I complained to a friend, and she said, "Just turn the handle halfway then?" My life has gone uphill from there, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you. My husband does this. He'll get dressed still wet. Why? My upvote is symbolic of a pat on the head. I live in a part of Chicago called Greektown for 8 years and never realized the blue and white Christmas lights were meant to represent the colors on their flag. It just dawned on me today. That the division symbol is just a blank fraction with dots representing the numerator and denominator. In the same vein, it took me longer than I'd care to admit to figure out that rational numbers meant they can be expressed as a ratio of integers. I never had a math teacher explain it that way, and it never clicked. I just thought, wow, what a weird way to describe numbers. What the hell, you just made it click after all these years. Well, hell, all of these I read, and this one got me. Mind you, I teach elementary school. Thank your lucky stars I don't teach math. Percent symbol, too. Holy crap, yeah, the rational numbers being about ratios just kind of blew my mind. I'm just kind of reeling here. Not me, but my husband just understood that Q is pronounced Q and not Quay. His mind was blown. I have to remind myself Quay is pronounced key, not quay, so this made me do a double take. Quay is pronounced key, not quay. Slaps face. God damn it. Q, 5-letter word, and the last 4 aren't necessary. They're all just lined up in the queue, waiting their turn. That Jessica Rabbit is not a rabbit, but took Roger Rabbit's last name. On a similar vein, as a child, I was confused as to why Mary, Kate, and Ashley were referred to as the Olsen twins, and why ads on TV only ever showed 2 of them at a time. And then 16-year-old me found out about Mary Kate. Did her looking nothing like a rabbit not give it away? I just assumed she was a rabbit since I didn't pay attention to her marital status as a child. We just recently watched it, and I realized they were officially married, and that's when it hit me. Super obvious. That alcohol doesn't freeze in a regular freezer. ETA, I was referring to drinks with high alcohol content, not beer and wine. I knew this, but my dumb butt still tried to make frozen alcohol pops. Blend it with ice and fruit and then put that in the freezer. That to take off the plastic piece on top of deodorant, you just simply twist the bottom a few times, laugh my butt off. No, I must bite. That's what I've been doing for years. Oh my god, I'm so dumb. The lead singer of Blur is the lead singer of Gorillaz. I realized the opposite. I was a Gorillaz fan before I was a Blur fan. One day I heard Coffee and TV and thought to myself, this sounds a bit like a Gorillaz song. I became a Blur fan that day. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.